Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, reacting to the Toronto Raptors 125-122 double overtime win against the Boston Celtics. Ryker, what a game. What a game for the Toronto Raptors. That was definitely one of the most stressful, just exciting, I don't even know how to describe it. Obviously, the OG shot was remarkable, but the intensity was just stretched out in this one. I was amped, man. That was a crazy game.
Ben, you and I, we've been talking a lot off the podcast about The Boys, the Amazon Prime superhero series, and no spoilers, but if anybody's watched season 2, episode 1, somebody's head explodes, and I felt like my head was going to do the same thing watching this game, Ben. Blood pressure at an all-time high, heart rate was going towards scary levels, and this one I don't think I could have stomached this loss, Ben. This was as much of a roller coaster, as much of a thrill ride as you could possibly hope for. I had friends not even basketball fans, and they were on the edge of their seats watching this one, Ben. What a show, and the second year in a row now pushing Game 7 in the second round of a very hard fought series.
This is, you got to give credit to both teams. Both teams came out, played their tails off, just players going big minutes. Mike Budenholzer might have a heart attack looking at this box score, but Siakam 54 minutes, Lowry 53, Fred 51, OG 50. Then on the Celtics side, same deal for Smart, Kemba, Jaylen Brown, Tatum, all playing over 50 minutes, Tice 47. And neither team went to their deep bench because you couldn't. This is a closeout game for the Raptors. Obviously, the Celtics are treating it as a closeout one going into Game 7. We all know what the Raptors can do in a Game 7 and what any team can do because it's just a toss-up. But, people came out, and the player we first got to talk about, Ryker, there's no one else we can really put above it. Kyle Lowry coming up clutch down the stretch at the start the whole time, really just led the show for the Toronto Raptors. 33 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, big steals at that, a block, to 12 of 20 from the field, 6 of 10 from the three-point line. We've had a lot of phenomenal Lowry moments and Lowry games over the course of his career, and this is another one we have to add to his Hall of Fame. He's making a case for a Hall of Fame career especially what he's done as a Toronto Raptor, and this is just another game on top of it he's adding to his resume.
Ben, I thought you were going to start with Serge Ibaka because we did count him out, but Kyle Lowry, he was the man of the hour. And also, before I forget it, Ben, we're creeping up to that 15K subs, trying to get that good luck going in, wishing the Toronto Raptors to the finals. So if you're not a subscriber, do that. But Ben,
yeah,
Kyle Lowry, he needed, like we said, the Boston defense stepped up a notch in Game 5. The one-on-one defense really took away the opportunity to drive into the lane, and so we knew Lowry was going to have to make an adjustment, whether that came from just being more creative on offense, looking for your shots a different way, or maybe playing inside out with Siakam. It obviously didn't happen as much with that whole inside out thing. Kyle Lowry just found a way to do it. He wasn't Kyle Lowry. He wasn't just Kyle right now, where he was Kyle Lowry, and that's what I said he needed to do, because hitting those clutch shots, Ben, deep threes. I think from the right wing, perimeter shot, he had 4 stretch threes. He was locked in, and honestly, to win Game 7, he's going to need to double down on that performance.
Yeah, and the shots he was hitting, and I don't even know if we should just have one spicy Pele of the day, because I can think of 1,000 moments for honestly every player that played in the rotation today, played big minutes, but the threes he was hitting over Tice that were step back right in his face. Jaylen Brown was all in him. He was hitting those deep threes. And then obviously the shot over Kemba Walker to really seal the deal for this one. It's a true testament to Lowry, the greatest Raptor of all time, just coming out and willing the Toronto Raptors to a win in a double overtime game. Just a phenomenal performance. And you brought up Ibaka. Ibaka came out, played really well. Didn't play too many minutes, and I guess that makes sense considering you and I made a podcast yesterday assuming he was going to be out for the game tonight. He was in a walking boot last night and this morning, came out to play today, looked A-okay. Maybe it was just a trick by the Raptors staff to throw him in a walking boot, because you rarely see players cast it up or whatever and be able to play a basketball game. That's just almost unheard of from what I've watched of basketball. So the fact that he was able to come out, fight through all that pain. And I'm sure everyone watching the way he was knocking down his threes and stuff wanted to see him out at the end of the game. But the fact that he was able to put up 21 minutes in such an important game is a true testament to his toughness. And he played well in those minutes. It was a great sight to see.
Ben, we have a lot to unpack here talking about Serge Ibaka, because we can talk about how they took out Ibaka. They took out Gasol, that's pretty obvious, but they took out Ibaka down the stretch for both of those overtime quarters or shifts, whatever you want to call them, to play small ball, to get some defense there. They let go of a lot of alley-oops to Tice, so we can debate that a little bit, Ben, but also really the third quarter of this game was what allowed the Toronto Raptors to win, because they lost the first like they usually do. They tied the second. Usually they lose the second. And they lost the fourth like they usually do. They were able to get enough cushion in that third quarter in order to really force this game to go into overtime, put themselves into a position to win. But that wouldn't have even been possible if Serge Ibaka didn't come out and hit 2 or 3 threes in the second quarter when the Raptors were down 10, 11 points. We said it. The Raptors are in a tough spot without Serge Ibaka's confident shooting. He's been very reliable in this Boston Celtics series when no other player seemingly has, and he went out there and did exactly what we wanted him to do tonight. Even though it was -9 again, worst on the team, his offensive contribution was huge.
Yeah, and Serge played in the time of the game when the Celtics were red hot on fire, so I think the plus-minus might be a little bit skewed in tonight's performance, but yeah, Serge played great in the minutes that he was out there, but at halftime, Riker, you and I were really down on Marc Gasol and Fred VanVleet's performances, particularly in the first half. But even though Marc only played in the third quarter, I don't know if he touched the floor in the fourth, and Fred still struggled, after the end of the game to put the ball on the floor, put the ball in the hoop. The threes that he was hitting after the halftime break, both of them, the shots that they made really cut down, because the Celtics had the lead going into the half and they opened it up a little bit, but the fact that the Raptors are able to bring it back, as you said, get a little bit of a cushion after the third quarter, that's a testament to how Fred and Gasol played in that third to really go into the fourth with the lead and the confidence.
Yeah, and all I'll say is Fred VanVleet really, besides that opening of the third, did not play a good game. 13 threes, I think shot 23% from the perimeter, shot about 30% overall when the rest of the starters were shooting around 40, 50, 60%. So I would say of all the starters, he probably had the worst game, not including Marc Gasol, but even Marc Gasol elevated compared to his previous 5 games. So you still want to see him out there, but Norm outplayed him tonight, and I don't know. It's a tough one for me and Fred, because I'm of the opinion if somebody's playing better, you got to play that person. I don't want to give somebody too much runway in a game where you need to win or go home to a guy to allow him time to find a shot. So that's what I was a little bit worried about down the stretch. But you're right. He was invaluable there in the third, and I think the third is what really was the catalyst for allowing the Raptors to win this game.
Yeah, and I want to make a different point, because You mentioned Fred had a poor game, but I think he had a poor shooting night, because aside from the shooting and some of the takes he was making, he missed a lot of layups at the start especially, but aside from the scoring factor, he played a phenomenal all-around game. He was getting blocks, steals, tipping the ball away from Tatum and Brown whenever you switch on to him, obviously bigger matchups. Lowry had some clutch steals as well, particularly on Brown. But 9 rebounds for Fred as well, particularly in that small ball lineup. I think Fred's just ability to do everything else, the same way Kyle does when he has a poor shooting night, right? I think that was a huge asset to be on the court. So that's a positive to see Fred VanVleet doing other things when the shots isn't going down. So I do want to bring that up.
And I'll chime in too and say, really, you can't understate how good their defense is, Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet, when they're playing them almost the entire game. And they're getting switched on to have to guard Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, much bigger guys, and still able to hold their own in the post, challenge shots, get strips, be down there in the block. So I definitely agree. They do more than just shooting, and that's extremely, I don't know, for guys that are 6 foot, it's very impressive.
Yeah, it's just remarkable to see, and we've talked this about pretty well every player, but the 2 guys that arguably were the clutchest in this game we haven't even touched on, Norman Powell and OG Anunoby. During the overtime game, obviously Lowry had the final clutch shot over Kemba Walker, which is great to see, but Norman Powell, even though he missed that potentially game-tying shot, he was hitting shot after shot in overtime. Corner threes, drives, free throws, whatever you can ask for, Norm was hitting it. And OG Anunoby, his rebounding, particularly as the small ball center, even though obviously that's the issue with small ball. You mentioned Daniel Tice is going to get some easier looks, but the way he was boxing him out, particularly, I don't recall any offensive rebounds really for the Celtics that weren't long shots, any offensive rebounds that you wouldn't expect the Raptors to get, but OG's rebounding, his ability to switch on defense, and the three that he hit were, the Raptors were down. I think this one put them up by 3 or something. Norm and OG hit back-to-back threes at the top of the 3-point line, and those were real, just timely, knockdown, clutch, ice in your veins threes. So I'm just baffled by how well those guys played down the stretch of this game in that small ball lineup. And it's a lineup that we were calling for when we expected Serge Ibaka to be out.
Yeah, and it's interesting that they closed the game. Ben, OG shot, the Raptors were down 2. It brought them up 1, so it was even more clutch than it being a tie game, because there was a lot of pressure on that shot. And then, of course, the very next possession, Norman Powell got a steal, I think, on Tatum, ran the length of the court, got the foul, hit his free throw. And you know what I want to say, too? Norman Powell was extremely clutch with free throws in this game. He hit 2 free throws when it was 108-110 and tied the game. He had that 1 free throw to bring it up by 4, make it a 2-possession game. And then he hit those 2 free throws when the Raptors were only up 1 with a couple seconds left, and made sure that the Celtics could only tie it at best. So to hit 5 or 6 free throws with the most pressure possible in a game where it's win or go home, you got to give credits to playoff Pal, because he was there to stay. He was there to win. There was no going home in his demeanor tonight, Ben.
Yeah, it was a sight to behold this whole entire game. And another Norman Powell moment, Marcus Smart hit a shot to put them up by 3, and that looked like to be when Marcus Smart's hitting sort of contested shots, even though he has been shooting really well in the series, it's just sort of a momentum stopper for the other team, because he's known as a defender and stuff. And when we say that, we're not saying that he's a bad shooter, but he's not known as a shooter. So that's the point we try to bring up. And the momentum swung right back when Norman Powell came down the next possession, hit that corner 3. So it was both of those guys, the whole team really came up big. And the last player in the rotation that we can really talk about, he played the most minutes. He's our all-star starter, Pascal Siakam, 12 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. And this guy's going to get dogged on. He is going to get trashed on Twitter, all that sort of stuff, probably by Raptors fans. But you got to give credit where credit's due. The man played phenomenal defense on Jason Tatum down the stretch of this game, and he took the right shots. He made one mid-ranger in overtime, which is nice to see, but he had a couple drives where they were the right takes. He was doing the stuff everyone's been asking him to do, and they just popped in and out. So I don't want to dog on Siakam too much. Obviously, if Lowry continues to play well, we can still beat the Celtics, and Ibaka and all those guys play well. We can beat them in Game 7, but we need Siakam to be Siakam if we really want to make a deep run in this playoffs and potentially win a championship.
Yeah, well, you said it. He got the shots that he should take. The only shots that I was frustrated that he took this evening were all of his 3-point attempts. None of them seemed to be in rhythm, but majority of this game were a couple steps inside or in the paint, and they just didn't go in. And so you can live with those. He's putting pressure on the defense to collapse. You said he's taking the right shots. So you can bag on him all you want for not making them, and I would probably fall into that category as well for being frustrated with him not hitting layups. But at least the shot selection this game was livable, and I didn't feel like he was throwing the game with his shot selection or anything.
Yeah, for sure. And 6 assists for Siakam is a great thing to see. He made good decisions in this game. The threes I could live without when he's struggling. It's a tough shot for him to take. You'd rather just him even step in, because his mid-rangers didn't look horrible tonight. And a couple of those fadeaways were a bit weird to look at. But the fact that he made the right passes, he was doing the good things. I think it's a positive sight to see, especially with how poor that Game 5 performance was. I guess from the whole entire roster. But Game 7, that's going to be an exciting one. But Ryker, let's swing into the segments, and tonight, the spicy Pele of the day. We brought up a bunch of them, but I think the big one has to be the Lowry dagger right over Kemba Walker. It was like a Kobe fade from the mid-range. That was a great shot. Norman Powell's threes, OG's threes, the rebounds. I don't know what else we could even. Do you have one in mind that hasn't been brought up?
It has to be that Kyle Lowry shot, Ben.
Yeah.
He is the everything of this team. He is the chosen one for the Toronto Raptors. You got to give it to this man.
Yeah, it was just a phenomenal performance. It was Kyle Lowry's the GOAT, man. He is the GOAT, but not all plays can be the spicy play of the day, and some just make you say, oh geez. And Ryker, tonight the OG's play of the day. We were kind of bagging on him at halftime. We brought it up, but in the halftime live streams, definitely check those out for the series. They're really fun to watch. They're on Instagram. They're thrown up there, so definitely follow us on Instagram if you want to see those. But Marc Gasol came out and he made his first threes against the Boston Celtics all season long. Because I don't know if we played him 3 or 4 times.
No, all
but
series, I think.
Series and season against the Boston Celtics. I don't think
Really?
he hit one I don't think he hit one during the regular season. So that's about 10 games right there where he just didn't hit a 3. Banged 2 right at the start of the half, which was a momentum swinger. That's got to be, I said OGs positively when he knocked those down, but that's got to be a heartbreaker for Boston Celtics fans when they've never seen him hit a shot in the Toronto Raptors jersey this year.
Yeah, well, you know what the Celtics Digest is saying the OG's play tonight is that no call on the Kemba Walker layup. I don't know if it was at the end of regulation. Looked like there could have been a foul there for sure, and then no shots awarded to OG on the other end. But at the end of the day, Ben, this to me was back and forth. Calls were going in either direction. Not technical fouls, really, like flagrant fouls going in either direction. Things being missed, things being called. I thought that this was just a true, nice, gritty game of basketball. Not too much disruption to the flow of the offense. They let the guys play through a lot of contact. I liked it, Ben. I liked the way that this played out. This is why I thought this was going to be the best series in basketball.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I agree with you in the overtimes, and that swings it into my DeMarre Carroll Gold Star Award because I think at the end of regulation, there was some really weird calls being made, as particularly a couple of blocking fouls on Tice. And the first one was definitely foul on Lowry. Then they called a soft one on Norm. And then the refs sort of made up for those 2 calls with really soft ones on the Toronto Raptors down the stretch of a really tight game. That frustrated me. And then the big one that really made me say it was the DeMarre Carroll Gold Star in regulation was OG Anunoby. And as you said, you already brought up the Kemba. That was a foul, but you're not going to get that call being a small guy driving in. Lowry, if it was the case, if you're going to call those on Kemba, right, Lowry would have won 5-6 extra games if smaller guys are going to get foul calls in the paint at the end of a game. That's just how it works in basketball as a small guard. You're not going to get those calls driving in. But OG Anunoby, the lob was thrown to him by Marc Gasol at the end of regulation, and he had the ball in his hands, and he was shoved by Tatum. They're saying it was before
he didn't have the ball in his hands.
The ball was he was trying to tip it in. I thought that should have been 2 shots, but I don't know. That was a DeMarre from me. Do you disagree or?
Yeah, I completely disagree because that was a clear foul to me on Kemba Walker there, on the forearm. But the other one, it seemed kind of off ball. But either way, you know what? You're calling something here. You're not calling something there. I thought a good example of it too was when they challenged the foul on Tice. Because that, whether it was first overtime or second overtime, that's when I really said, okay, the reffing, maybe the Celtics are going a completely other direction here, but I said the reffing is not too bad. If that under review, they turned it over. They could have easily kept the foul. They could have easily upheld the foul, but he got a good clean strip on the ball. I said, I'm not really going to bag on the officiating too much this game.
Yeah, for sure. And I think in OT it was definitely rep very good. And yeah, I was just cheesed that OG didn't get another shot at a game winner. Obviously, OG's being the GOAT. But I guess the final thing, Ryker, Game 7. We got to talk about. We could even make a whole preview for that because that's just going to be an exciting one. But what are your thoughts? Are we going to see the Toronto Raptors? Obviously, everyone's going to be tired for that Game 7 with both teams running guys over 50 minutes. But we brought it up in the Ibaka injury video was sort of a preview for Game 6, but the OG at center lineup, it was lockdown on defense. Obviously, it led to a couple of...
I did not like that lineup, Ben.
Bro, it gave up some dunks to Tice, but there wasn't any open threes. The guys kept in front of everyone. I loved to see it.
I'm going the other way, Ben. I did not like to see that small ball lineup. I just maybe a day of some light practice, right? If you just you practice who's going to go down and cover the low man, because obviously it's not something that the Raptors squad is used to. They're not used to those 5 guys out there in closing minute situations, especially with a guy you need to be aware that can catch it down low and finish. But I would have liked to see Ibaka out there, but obviously it's tough to say that when the Raptors got the W.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the small ball unit, especially where Ibaka clearly couldn't play, because I assume Ibaka would be in there if he was completely healthy. Maybe it was just Nurse saying, hey, this is what I want to run. But we talked about in the preview, I think OG as a center, he can hold his own, particularly against a smaller guy like Tice. Maybe if we're going up against Embiid or something, or AD, it might be a tougher look. But Tice, sure, if we're going to lose a game to Tice, we'll lose a game to Tice. I don't think he's going to be a difference maker in the series, particularly in a Game 7. And the fact that the Celtics, they went on a big run hitting just a whole ton of corner threes, and the small ball lineup really neutralized that. There wasn't any open three-point shots for the Celtics, and I thought that was a great adjustment for Nick Nurse to make against the Boston Celtics, because particularly at the start of this one in the first half, they were just raining. They were getting open looks. Like, it wasn't that they fluked into a lot of shots like Game 2, but they got a lot of open looks and they were knocking down threes, and the small ball unit just neutralized all of those open looks, in my opinion. And if we're going to lose to a big man hitting, with some really nice passes by Tatum and Kemba, a couple of open dunks, but a lot less open threes, particularly in the corners, that's the 2020 era of basketball, right? You gotta threes first and then defend the paint second.
Yeah, and you're right. Those threes in the corner would have buried us. 4 or 5 in a row there to start, or I don't know what time frame it was in the fourth, but it was a good adjustment to shut down the corner threes, which were really switching the momentum, got the lead back for the Celtics. Ben, predictions before this podcast ends. Predictions roughly for Game 7. I don't want to predict anything because again, very superstitious.
We always jinx it when we.
Yeah, but what I want to say is this game I think will be won or lost in the first quarter. Not whoever wins or loses the first quarter specifically, but the Raptors, I think you're going to know right away what the tone of the game is. And if the Raptors come out slow, if they get down by 10, 15 points, I think you can chalk it up then and there. If they keep it close like they did this one, there's a fighting chance they can take this one on and move on to the next round, Ben.
I'm going to say the same thing I said for Game 6, right? The Raptors, if they come out with energy, if they come out focused, the game's either going to go one or two ways. The Raptors are going to be able to close this out in a dogfight with the Boston Celtics, or we're likely going to get blown out by Boston, right? Like, those are the two ways the series has gone. The close games, we tend to find a way to really pull through, and whether that's the championship DNA, Nick Nurse coaching, or a bit of luck, who knows what it really is, but the Raptors can always seem to find a way in those close games to get it done, so I'm confident in them to win a close game with Boston, but we just can't let them go on a route. We can't let them go on a big run to start the game specifically. And, if we hold our own, keep it close the whole time, I'm just like we did tonight, we'll pull out a dogfight hopefully against the Celtics. But who knows what will happen in Game 7. You're the best for making this far. As Ryker said, hope you guys, everyone listen and subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it, everyone. We're trying to shoot for 15K subs before the playoffs end. So tell your friends about the Raptors Digest. If you haven't subscribe. But yeah, you check out the Twitter, the Instagram, all the cool stuff. The IG Lives, I'm sure it'll be a very fun one in Game 7 tomorrow. You have any last words, Ryker?
Not tomorrow, Friday, Ben.
Oh, yeah, Friday. I don't know. It's the only thing that's going to be on my mind, the Celtics-Raptors game.
Oh, man. I don't know. It's so weird. Second season in a row, playoffs, Game 7, round 2. Is there going to be another shot, Ben? I know we already had a shot, but is there going to be another shot?
I don't know if I could take another stressful game like that.
All right, we're going long.
Take another shot.
Yeah, I don't know if I could either. We're going long. Let's sign it off here, Ben. Cheers.